So if I have something like a Tesla, and I have this kind of pattern that's working perfectly, and I go over this in the public one, but I'm going to give a lot of detail here. And I think this is super important for people to get this. Now, today of all days for this thing to get going, I thought was interesting, but you mark off that previous high. And of course, you would also mark off the pre-market high. And we've watched these levels, and we know where our levels are from before. And you heard me say this over and over again, pardon me, you heard me say this over and over again on Friday when we were trading, that you need to watch this. You need to watch this. And I kept saying over and over again, well, I'm looking at this. I'm not going to do this because I have a ton of stock. I'm not going to do this because I have a ton of stock. Why did I change my mind? What about this got me to get involved in this name? Right? Like, why would I change my mind on something like this? And when you start diving into like where a lot of my decisions come and where they'll change, really boils down to volume. So you'll see one screen, but you won't see all my screens. Obviously, I have the equivalent of about, well, I've got two huge curved monitors, and then I have two other monitors off to the side. So the two huge curved monitors are like each are 55 inches. So they can literally split into three other small ones. So it's literally like I'm staring at 8 screens, roughly, if you're trying to figure it out. And I'm just getting that out there for a reason. I usually split it into roughly 4. So I'm looking at 6 screens in total, but I have the ability to make this thing go to 8 screens. So I'm always looking at more. But you would look at this and go, well, why did you get involved? Like, why are you buying in here? Like, this is what the area of interest. And then why did you add back into here? For me, it's all about the volume and what I'm saying. And so when I'm looking at this behavior in here, and I can see that we're starting to lift, that is extremely appealing to me that I can't even get through any of these wicks. Like when I can't get through them and I see them. So the big one that you would all see is right here. And you all say it, that wick right there. You can't miss it. So if we mark that wick off on that trade and we just look at what's going on there for a second, let's just drop this down. And because this is what worked for us this week. So when we look at this wick, we're just like, okay, well, it's a 1 minute bar. Why is he so excited about it? Well, what's happening in that 1 minute bar that whole time? I can't get out of it. You literally can't get out of it. You found, like, this is why we say wicks are price rejection. Dojis are spots and signs of uncertainty. Do you ever have another doji in any of this that takes that out or changes that? You never have anything. You just have this little doji just, sitting here, and then this one comes along and says, no, I'm in charge. Okay. And when did we get a close over that? Right here. When was my first real sell on this trade, if you remember? If you don't, I go over it a little bit in the public, but we're getting into some real detail today. And we're going to start getting into way more minutia on these trades. So this is my first sell. Why? That's my first real confirm that I'm over. The rest is just nonsense. They're just playing games. So when this happens, it's super important. When I pop over here on levels like this, or I pop over here on levels like this, right? If I'm long here or I'm long in here, and I was long here, but if I'm long here and I pop over, like I'm going to go, and then I undercut, if you're day trading and you're quick, and if you're not day trading on a quick platform, you shouldn't be day trading. It should be, I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out. And if it's not that fast, switch platforms, because you're wasting my time and you're wasting yours. Like seriously, you're wasting time. You have to be able to execute immediately. You're just, it's so important to get that concept. Or just don't try to day trade for $1 or $2. You're gonna just tear yourself apart. So if you are here, you undercut that. It's a super simple trade. You might get crushed, but for me, getting in here and when I pulled that money out, why did I do that? Because I popped over and I failed. And this wick is higher than that wick. So that means, once again, I don't know if you're looking for supply. You sure seemed to me you were looking for supply. So I have to have that, as I refer to it, my, oh crap moment. I could be wrong. I look at the volume. I put the trade back on right into it, right here. Why? Why did I do that? See this buying? And you heard the button when my little British guy go, order placed or order whatever he says. Why am I doing that? There's my level. That's where I'm at. So I'm at 67 there. You can see the numbers right up here. 67, 297, 67. And you can see right here, 297, 68. 297.67. What did they do? They put you below a penny to rip it in your face. Take everybody. As soon as I saw that and then I saw them lift it up, I'm like, oh, okay, they're just stop hunting. Like on a really small level, they're just stop hunting. Look at the amount of volume that came in on that bar. And it couldn't break it. At that point, I don't really care about this. I truly don't care about that. Like, I already know the game. I already know what you're doing. So now you need to close under this. You will actually hear my tone, if you listen to my tone there, change on the trade. I've gone from uncertainty to being more certain that I'm right if you listen to me. Why? Because I'll start saying, well, you're not getting my stock that way because I saw what they just did to somebody. That's why I'm saying that. I'm like, you're not getting me that way because I know what they're doing now. So now I allow it to play out. The very first thing that I do is understand why I'm in the trade and I know it's a scalp. So then what I do is it pops. What do I do when it pops? New highs, tag, you're it, trim. I think I sold 20% or 25% on that move. Down, up, new high, trimmed, 25%. And so why? New highs. I don't know that they're not going to reverse it. I was thinking 301 I was going to see. That was one of my levels that was marked off. Sideways, sideways. And you could always mark these off yourself, but I didn't have to. But bullish engulfing, you definitely don't want to break a bullish engulfing, but that's going to be a place of interest, obviously. And then we started to break down. And now he's going to yammer on about his cloud. So, the cloud, him and his magical cloud. And then it breaks right here. Once I flip the charts. It's crazy that they don't take me to the same spot when I flip the charts. It's kind of frustrating. Once that broke, that was it. I was done. Why aren't you waiting for that to finish? Because this was a day trade and it was a scalp for me. And I know a couple things. When I have a bar like this, like why don't you wait for that to flip? Why didn't I wait for that to cross? Why didn't I wait for the retest? Here's why. I already have stock on. This was a scalp trade that we did exceptionally well on. I thought I'd make like $1 or $2, frankly. But I allowed the process to work. That's a black Marbuzo. And what that means is that I don't really have, if you look at like the opening of that bar and the high of that bar, which you can see right here, it's pretty much the same. And then if you look at the low of that bar and you look at the close of that bar, it's pretty much the same, which means that entire 1 minute was nothing but selling. So why do I want to stay in that trade to see what the next bar is going to be? Because once that happens, what's next here is usually an undercut. And maybe it rips back up, maybe it doesn't, but I don't want to play around with that. You can see how that one minute bar, by that definition, marked off what? The entire level. The entire top was placed off a 1 minute bar. And so what you will do as you get better at this, you will be able to mark these kinds of bars off. You will say, that's a control bar. How do I know that's a control bar? Well, I'm glad you asked, because it controlled everything. It couldn't break out. And if it couldn't break out of there, and then it controlled that, and I couldn't break above it, pretty much seems like it's in control, doesn't it? Control bars are usually defined by black Marbuzos. You can also look for like white ones. That's not as strong. You can always look at the volume, but what do you think the volume is going to be? Right? It's kind of strong. It's not off the charts, but it's kind of strong. Should I have cared that I didn't have a lot of volume there? Not really. Doesn't really matter. It's actually worse that you have light volume that it dropped than if you had heavy volume. Because if you had heavy volume, then that means you might have got rid of all the sellers, but you didn't. So that's why that trade worked, and that's how I did that trade.